Hey, this is Rod Cleef, and you are listening to the Mailbox Money Show with Bronson Hill.
Welcome to the Mailbox Money Show. I am your host, Bronson Hill. I am very excited to be here today with my friend LeAnn LeFortūne. I probably said it wrong, but really excited to have her. She's awesome. She just had a summit recently that I was a guest at. It was a capital raising summit and had some amazing guests, amazing conversation. And we're going to talk today about development. What does it look like to develop, particularly on smaller single family type of plots? And I've been really interested in this topic because I live right next to the fires in California. We had some in Altadena, California. The Eden Canyon fire is about 2 miles from my house. And so I want to be a part of rebuilding there. And so there's an idea that I've had about using manufactured or modular homes, and she's doing something similar right now in Austin, Texas. And so I'm very excited to have a conversation and just really hear more about her journey. She's had quite a diverse background, and she's really been in real estate for quite a while, over 10 years. So, LeAnn, thanks so much for being here. Excited to have this conversation with you.
Absolutely, Bronson. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's going to be
Uh,
a good conversation. I'm fired up. Let's
Yeah,
do
one
it.
thing one thing I appreciate about you, you're really good at bringing people together. I know you were doing this capital raising summit and just kind of how do we do more of this? And it's just a real connector of people. So I really appreciate that about you. I know part of your background, you grew up in Alaska and you became a shipping captain or had a shipping captain's license. So tell us a little bit of your background, kind of how you got into real estate development.
Oh goodness, that's a great story. Yeah, so I grew up in Southeast Alaska in an island archipelago, and I'm actually from Prince of Wales Island, and I'm from a little fishing village, kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You can't get there unless you take a seaplane, like a bush plane, or there is a ferry that will take you to the other side of the island, but then there's no taxi service. So you have to know someone that'll drive across the island and pick you up, and it's kind of like a journey in into itself to get to where I'm from. It's not just as simple as like, oh, I'm going to take the ferry and it's a 30-minute ferry right from near where I'm at. No, it's more like a 3-hour ferry boat ride, and then you have to drive across the island. And so, yeah, it's a journey. And it's a little village with, I mean, I think that most of the population is commercial fishermen. And that's actually what my father is he's a commercial fisherman. So that's what I grew up doing is my dad very much made me a part of the family business because I was like, let's admit it, like free labor, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I learned how to clean a fish about the age that I could walk. In fact, I think I learned how to walk on the boat. So when I got to land, I was like swaying back and forth on my sea legs. But yeah, I grew up doing that. And I mean, it's just so much nature there. I grew up in the middle of National Geographic, basically, with humpback whales breaching, with eagles flying overhead all the time. You can hear the eagle calls all day, every day, and bears. Prince of Wales has the highest black bear population per square mile, I believe it is. And so there's a lot of like bear charters that come in there. And
Sure.
it just really is a serene, natural environment that I grew up in. And that really caused my affinity to nature. And that's really why I went on to get my biology degree is I was about 17, 18, and I thought it was so neat. When I heard that you could actually get renters in a home and make it passive income, I was like, oh my gosh, tell me more. But then my family was like, you don't want to be a landlord. Like, they kind of talked me out of it, and they were like, well, you should go on and get your degree. And so I ultimately went on and got my biology degree. And because I already had all my sea time from growing up on my dad's fishing vessel, I got my 100-ton captain's license. And I ended up landing a job on a research vessel with the state of Alaska Department of Fish and Game. And I would spend more than 6 months out at sea doing research with the state of Alaska. And it would really help manage the commercial fisheries too, because Alaska has a very highly regulated fisheries. They want to make
Right.
it's their natural resource. They want to make
I want,
sure.
I want to stop and interrupt for just a minute because I know this is a wonderful story. We want to make sure we get it to how you're doing big real estate stuff today. So your family, I think a critical part of what you shared, obviously you have this background, you've done a lot of different things. Me as well. I've kind of had many different things that I've done, many hats, was a youth pastor, was a medical sales guy, we did different things. And families all in education. They're like, why would you ever leave your great job to go do this non-secure thing? So for you, I guess, when was the point that you, maybe you can just kind of briefly give us a like, this is what got me actually back in, what got me into real estate. Like, what was it that actually got you into being a real estate developer? Because now you develop a lot of the last 10 years you've been doing this.
Yeah, I was almost there in my
Yeah.
story. So,
I'm gonna cut you off, but
no, you're fine. You're fine. I kind of get into my story. It's a long one. So I would work on this research vessel, and I'd spend most of my year out at sea, and I kind of saw the glass ceiling, and I was like, the pay isn't great. I spend most of my time out at sea. I can't be at home. I couldn't have a relationship. It's like, this is not conducive to where I see my future going. So I up and quit without a plan whatsoever. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I am driving down the road and I hear, do you want to learn how to flip houses on the radio? And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So with no experience whatsoever, I ended up going and joining this course, and I ended up learning how to flip houses. And really, I didn't enjoy the house flipping. It's a lot of work and there's so many unknowns. You get into the wall and it's like electrical work done by 10 different electricians and shoddy work, and it's going to start a fire. And you're like, I have to redo everything. And I
that's
would
the
do
real
have
home
to my
projects. You get
bedroom.
into something, you're like, oh, it's going to take me that long. And then you get in, and you're like, no, it's going to be way more. It's almost better just to like build something new, right? So that you don't have to deal with
Right,
that, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So while I was doing all that flipping, to make this short story, because I know we don't have a lot of time, I ended up doing some joint ventures. One of my JV partners, we became partners in life and in business, and we moved to Austin, Texas from Alaska and started doing new construction because the flipping wasn't our forte, we found.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I think it's interesting too that a lot of us will enter real estate through one door. Like I kind of started as in my mid 20s. I bought a house, ended up living in another state for a while in Montana, and then I ended up leaving and just fixing it up. And instead of selling it, I decided to keep it and be kind of like an out-of-state landlord. And it just kind of got me like I realized I started with like $100 a month, and it became three, two, three, $400 a month. And I was like, oh, it's kind of nice. It's actually nice to have some cash flow. It wasn't a lot, but it kind of gave me a taste of that. And then as I got to be bigger, it's like, well, how can I scale this? What can I do that's bigger? And I know you went on to kind of do bigger things. So you've done a fair amount of development the last 10 years. Can you give us just a concise, like the last 10 years we've done this many houses we developed or these type of projects, just so we have an idea of what you're working on?
Yeah, so in 2017, I moved to Austin, Texas, and since then we've built nearly 100 homes. We're almost at 100.
Wow, that's incredible. So are these like in like a big, are these like kind of one-offs? You'll take a lot and you'll clear the house, or is it a vacant lot and you'll build, or do you do subdivisions, or how are you building these?
They're mostly single family homes. Some of them at most maybe had like 11 homes on a lot, but they weren't quite subdivisions. Most of them, if they were, we may have bought something that was already subdivided. But really our forte is to take down a lot. And historically in Austin, you can buy a lot and build two homes in its place. So a primary and ADU. And now actually Austin just went through a zoning change because they're wanting to get population density, a higher population
Yeah.
density. And so now you can actually build three homes on a lot instead of
Yeah.
two, and the ADU actually went away. Like there's
Wow.
no stipulation on how big the AD unit. It
Okay.
was 1,100 square feet before. Now it can be the same size as the primary.
Yeah. Yeah. California, they have a statewide thing too. Cities have fought it a little bit, but it's basically as long as you have enough square footage, you can put the house and then like an up to 800 square foot ADU, and then a 500 square foot junior ADU that's attached to the main. It's kind of like a mother-in-law suite or whatever you'd call it. But it's interesting. There are also other ways you can kind of subdivide and do other things. But so talk to me a little bit about you said, and this interesting, you're on this path as well, that you did a lot of kind of new development or kind of building stick development, like you said, putting the frame up and doing all this. But now you're looking into doing kind of like manufactured modular homes. Like, can you talk to us like a little bit about the benefits in regards to speed, in regards to cost? I would love to know, like, if somebody's like, hey, I want to do something similar in my market. What are some of the like benefits of using kind of pre-made versus doing it, kind of as a normal construction build?
Yeah, so what we were finding is that in the city of Austin, getting through permitting was quite extensive. And it would take sometimes 3, 4 months to get through permitting. And so that would put us at a timeline. Oh goodness. Sometimes it was taking up to 1.5 years when it shouldn't take that long. And the
Yeah.
reason it was a lot of city bureaucratic stuff. It's not necessarily that, oh, it takes that long to build a house. No, that's just a lot of permitting and things like that. So what we found with working with a factory is that we can actually once we get that factory architectural design permitted with the city of Austin, we can actually reuse that design and we don't have to go through permitting on the architectural plan. So you can get through, and then at the end, it's like, yeah, we have to have a certificate of occupancy to make sure that it's livable and all's good. But it takes out a large part, like 3 months or so of the permitting at the onset of the whole thing. So
Yeah.
a huge help. That's kind of big.
That is a big help. So yes, and I think one of the things I know it's more cost efficient, but the speed as well, right? They can build them in weeks, right? And basically bring
Oh
them
my
up
gosh,
versus,
yeah.
what would take months or potentially 6 to 12 months to actually build something, right? It can be much faster, right?
Yeah, way faster. Yeah, I think that the factory said they're building 5 homes a week, I think is what they told me most recently. I mean, it's just crazy how much faster they can go than, and then everything as well is just, you're not having to deal with weather delays when you're building stick frame outside on site, like we used to be doing. It's now no more weather delays, no more dealing with like contractors not showing up or not showing up on time, or different delays like that. They're all doing it in a factory, so it's very systematized. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. No, I think that the efficiency of the speed, the cost is really ideal. Now, I'm curious, like if someone, do you guys actually, are you guys general contractors as well? And you guys do kind of oversee the whole thing, or do you have like groups that you kind of subcontract with to do it? I know that I've looked at it and it's like, okay, if I were doing this in California, it would be like you'd have somebody kind of help do the foundation, the permitting and pour the driveway and do all that. And it's kind of like, are you guys doing kind of the whole GC work as well?
Yeah, we're doing the GC work as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice. Okay, cool. And then, like, I guess if somebody's listening, I know you guys. I just want to put a spotlight on you as well. You guys do take investors for this. You do have investors that partner with you on these projects. If someone were to do it themselves, so let's say somebody's like, "Hey, I want to build something, whatever." Like, what does that process look like, or the learning curve? Is this something anybody can do, or is it something that, like, obviously they need to partner maybe with a general contractor or with a manufacturer or whatever? But if somebody was going to do this, they had a lot nearby in their market and let's say the Northeast or the Northwest or somewhere else in the Midwest, like how would they like is it something somebody can figure out, or is it just a lot of kind of brain damage to kind of figure out how to do it?
I think it kind of depends on your level of experience. If you're pretty handy and you know a little bit about construction or something, I think it's something that you could definitely figure out, and you'd probably work with a foundation subcontractor or something like that, and you could kind of put on the general hat. You would need to develop a relationship with a factory though, as well, if you wanted to go that route. So, that's always an option, or you could make it a one-stop shop and make it kind of easy and partner with a general contractor, and you'd want to make sure that they have a relationship with the factory, because not all general contractors do, and then you can get it done that way as well.
Yeah, and what is the life cycle? So if you go in and you buy land and then you have to kind of either clear what's there or maybe it's a vacant land, a piece of land, and then you're going to do this. What's the turnaround like in your market that you guys are saying, "Hey, we're gonna, we have the money, we're gonna go buy this, get lending, be able to go purchase this, and then we're actually going to be able to sell that when it's a completed product at the end." Like, is that like what's the time turnaround typically for projects?
If there are architectural plans that we can reuse that we've already got permitted, we can get it done in like 3.5 months.
Amazing. Has that been the case? You guys have done it in 3.5 months?
We're getting our first one with that we're going to reuse the plans for. So we did a like what we see in a typical lot here in Austin. We made architectural plans for a lot that we can put on our first one here and now, but then it's also one that we can reuse. So once we get
Yeah.
it permitted, yeah, we're gonna be able to
Amazing.
be knocking it out
Be
that
like a
quick.
machine, just be cranking those out. Well, what I like about the strategy is it's kind of for either as somebody passively investing with a group like yours or doing it themselves. It kind of is like it's basically the burst strategy, right? Because the burst strategy is the buy, rehab, I don't know, all the R's, and then basically refinance, right? So you're basically coming in, you're adding a lot of value in a very short amount of time. There's a lot of cost to do that, but then the comps are way higher, right? You've created so much value that in a very short period of time, you can either sell or refinance, and it allows you to be able to go on to the next one. So I love that, you're able to create so much value so quickly. So I think that's great. So it sounds like you mentioned some of the market changes that, especially, and of course it's different in different parts of the country, but are you seeing, I guess when it comes to manufactured housing, is this stuff that like, I guess we think of stuff from 30 years ago, it was kind of like look like manufactured, look like a box or like a mobile home park or something. And I didn't realize this as I learned and kind of got some training this as well, that at one point, I think it was in the 70s, I'll make it these number wrong, but like 30% of new home construction was manufactured housing. And then like, I think in the 80s, it was like over 50%. So it was like, or maybe it was 60, it was very high. And then they just kind of stopped making it, right? It's like, or it's become different. So like, how do you find that these homes, I mean, can you look at them and obviously tell that they're manufactured, or are they like so advanced now you can't tell?
No, I mean, I think that you have to have a very educated, distinguished eye to tell. Like I can look at them and tell, and my husband can but we know what we're looking at. But for the average person, so for example, I was short-term rental managing for one of my clients, and people that I would take to, and it was a manufactured home, they had no idea. People that were renting them, like short-term renting them, they had no idea. And then other people that I would take there to kind of showcase them as well, sharing with them like, hey, this is a manufactured home. They would walk up and they couldn't tell at all.
Yeah.
So basically, I mean, there is some restrictions on what you can do, but here in Austin, we're going like 3 levels high, stories high. And so but within those 3 stories, it's kind of like a Lego. You can like link them any way that you want. And so really it doesn't look like just a box, or in one can look different from the other if you stack the Legos differently. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
And
yeah,
so, yeah, these are kind of like layers. So you stack them to different styles on top of each other or around, and then they
yeah.
basically build them somewhere else. They bring them in, and do they build them a couple hours away or within a couple hours of where you're at or somewhere in Texas?
Not who I'm working with. No,
Oh,
actually, there aren't very many actually here in Texas. So yeah, I'm having to go
bring them
out
in.
of the state for me.
So they bring them in and they can assemble them in a matter of days, right? Within a week or something, they can basically put it all together and assemble everything. And then you still have to do the finished stuff, where like you have to put sinks in. You of course got to hook utilities up. But how like is it a lot of work to do, or is it more kind of like just hooking utilities up and everything else is kind of pretty much set up?
They have what they call as like a setup crew that'll come in, and the factory might have somebody that they work with who they recommend as well. For those of you that might want to be taking this on yourself, you can talk to the factory, and they might have a crew that they can talk to that can help with like zipping it up and making sure it all looks like it was put together right, and you can't tell that it was Legos getting stacked on top of each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, it all happens very quickly though. The factory, they'll ship the homes in, and then they call it flying it in when they take it off of the truck and they set it on site. And we're going to be putting 3 homes together, and they imagine it should only take 2 days. So if you think about this, the actual effect on the neighborhood is going to be substantially less, because if it takes a year to a year and a half to build a home doing stick frame, you're having to listen to those nails being hammered, and saw
Yeah.
cutting and all the noise and construction for a year and a half or so. But if you're just really like lifting the home in 2 days, and then they're zipping it up and bam, done, like the
Yeah.
the neighbors are happy, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's interesting how quickly that can happen. I've actually thought about it in the area here where the fires were, where like if you build quickly, it's good, but then it's also like the downside, I guess, is if you're there early and you're living there, then everybody's building for the next number of years. So that's people build so fast that you're there early, but it is great to be able to have that quick, quick build. Awesome. Well, that's really awesome. So what, I guess for you, I'd be curious. I know you're a big fan of development. How has development changed in the last few years and maybe even the last couple of months? Have you seen any changes as far as lending or demand or other things as far as what, obviously Austin's an in-demand area, but I know there's been demand has kind of been up and down a little bit with just, the way real estate has been. So I'd love to know, like, how are things, like, what's the latest as far as trends?
Yeah, so oh goodness, Austin kind of blew up once. It's been on a steady incline for I mean, even since 2008, it didn't really even slow down too much. And so it's been going up 10% year over year, really. And then it just blew up after COVID, and then they lowered the interest rates. And like, I guess Tesla was coming here. All the big people were coming here. So there was even more demand. They were creating tons of jobs. And then once the interest rates started going up after all of that, like it's definitely had a big reset here in the last, I'd say 2022, like late 2022, it hit a huge reset. And we've seen a lot of correction, and we saw home prices actually coming down for quite a bit. So right now, land prices are, I'm starting to see them steady out. I'm starting to see them kind of reach where I think might possibly be a low. We'll see. But that's kind of where it's at right now. But spring is coming, and spring has historically been a really good time of year for Austin. So, and I'm starting to see things moving again
Yeah.
quite.
Yeah, it's kind of a time. Spring, summer is pretty big, and then things can slow down for winter just in general because of school schedules and things like that. So, well, that's really great. I think it's awesome what you're doing. I love how you're really, developing this. You've continued to add on to it to go, hey, we're going to do kind of, use the factory and do manufactured, which I think is a great way to go. And then just a question on the lending. How does the lending work for the land and for these, is there lending available for both? Is it one construction loan for everything, or how do you guys typically finance these?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so right now, I mean, we're working with some JV partners that are lending on the whole entire thing. Typically, hard money lenders are not going to want to lend on it, or at least they're not going to want to until they see the homes actually show up on site. Like they're going to want to see them. So that could be a huge, hiccup in the lending side for a lot of people. Yeah.
Do the manufacturers, do they have any lending programs or anything with them for the?
Not that I've seen, no.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I think
Yeah.
some of the larger ones might. There are some of the major ones. I think some of them do, but I think it just depends on who you're working with, because there's just different things available. Well, that's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being here, LeAnn. I appreciate all the value you're adding with your audience as well, and you're helping people to raise capital and do things as well. If people do want to reach out, hear about your deals, and connect with you, what's the best way for people to be able to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can find us on Tectonic, www.tectonic.com, and it's TEKKTONIQ.com is how you spell that. And you can subscribe for our newsletter, and we'll be happy to keep you updated with the different things that we're seeing as far as prefab modular construction goes and how things in the economy in Austin are going. We're happy to update you there if you sign up for our newsletter, and deals that we also have available for joint venturing with us on.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here. That's Tectonic. We'll get it in the show notes. TEKKTONIQ. That's the website.com. So check that out. Thank you for being here, LeAnn. Really appreciate you. Look forward to hearing more about what you're doing in the development and modular home space.
Yeah, thanks, Bronson.
Thanks. All right, LeAnn is great. What I really like about LeAnn is that she takes action. She started a capital raising summit just because she was trying to figure out, hey, how to raise more capital in my business, right? And also leading from one thing to another. A lot of people that I find, myself included, is that are very successful. They'll go from one thing to another until they find the thing that's really important. So we hear about her family was in a certain thing, like my family was in education or is in education. They're like, why would you ever leave your great job? I was like, because I want to have financial freedom. And by being able to pursue different types of avenues for revenue or for income or for passive income, it opens you up to so many more things, right? If I'm just like, I've got to only do single family houses, or I've only got to do this certain asset over here, you're going to be limited in what you're able to do. So being a learner, being open to new things is really, really valuable. And I'm also, like I mentioned, very interested in this idea of developing, bringing in modular homes. And very quickly, there's a big pop. Now, the challenge is it is more active. So you have to have partners to be able to do it. It's something that sounds like it is possible to do. LeAnn does take investors for things like this. And so it is something to consider, right? It's something to consider in depending what market you're in. But I always find it's very interesting. I hope you're also getting value out of this. Would love to hear from you what it is that's most valuable to you in this interview or other interviews, or what you'd like to hear about. So send me an email, bronson@bronsonequity.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you have not joined our investment club, click the link below, hit the join button. We'll start a relationship with you, share our upcoming deals with you. We've got some amazing stuff. I just continually, I know I keep talking about it, I get very excited about it because, there's just so many things that are out there that are very interesting that we can use to make money, right? There's a lot of great investments, and there's investments, you never know how an investment will turn out when you start, but it's so important that we stay open and learn to figure out what the next thing is. So I appreciate you taking the time to educate yourself, because that really is the first step on this road to financial freedom and to firing yourself. So hopefully you found a way to fire yourself, or you're on your journey. So we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Mailbox Money Show. You've been listening to the Mailbox Money Podcast. For more free resources, articles, and videos, go to bronsonequity.com. There you can download your copy of the special report, The Single Best Investment Strategy During and After a Pandemic. None of the information shared here is an offer to buy a specific investment, and this is for educational purposes only. Consult your financial, legal, and tax professionals and use your own common sense before making any investment decisions. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next time for more Mailbox Money.